The German Defense Minister, Boris Pistorius, has made an unannounced visit to Ukraine. In Kyiv, Pistorius, who has been in office for less than 3 weeks, met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He also held talks with his Ukrainian counterpart, Mr. Reznikov. Pistorius announced that Ukraine will receive more than 100 battle tanks of the older Leopard 1 type from a consortium of several European countries. All right, we want to bring in our correspondent now, Nick Connolly. He called up with the German defense minister today in Kyiv. Good evening to you. Nick, what stands out from the German defense minister's visit so far?
Well, definitely Boris Pistorius was making a lot of that announcement of those older Leopard 1 tanks, albeit lots of them are going to be only arriving in Ukraine towards the end of 2023, if not early 2024. But I think it's important for him to talk about that because the previous announcement of the more modern Leopard 2 tanks, it seems like Germany and a handful of other countries are going to be on time. But if you read the German press, it seems that like a lot of other European countries are going to be much later than suggested or even promised. But I think if you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, this was about the mood music, about trying to turn a page and trying to get back to a more kind of productive dialogue than had been the case between Ukrainian politicians, at least off the record, and his predecessor, Christine Lamprecht. I asked him how he had spent his time talking to Ukrainian politicians, what kind of feedback he got from them, and let's have a listen to what he had to say.
I've now had 2 meetings with my Ukrainian counterpart, once in Ramstein and once today. In all those talks in Ramstein and today, not a word of criticism has been voiced towards Germany's approach. On the contrary, they're very appreciative of and grateful for how much commitment Germany has shown. Of course, they would like to see more, but not a single word of criticism has been voiced.
No criticism, but let's talk about the timetable here. What Pistorius is saying is that these tanks are going to arrive in Kyiv a lot later than people were expecting. I'm wondering, with that in mind, how is his visit, how is it being perceived on the Ukrainian side?
Well, it's important to stress here that actually it seems like Germany is actually going to meet its commitments in terms of the more modern tanks. It's just the other European countries who've been pushing Germany to send these tanks and who had basically been suggesting that it was Berlin that was blocking everything. They, if you read the German press at least, it would seem are not capable of basically making good on those promises. If you look at the kind of Ukrainian response, I think there's definitely a desire to kind of row back from some of the kind of open animosity we saw in previous months to kind of work together better. We also saw Boris Pistorius meeting Ukrainian soldiers who'd been awarded various kind of medals for gallantry who were going to be sent to Germany to learn to use those German tanks. And he was definitely a lot more relaxed in that setting than his predecessor ever was. But I think there definitely is a worry here that there isn't just the understanding in Germany or in Europe as a whole of quite how quickly Ukraine needs those tanks. We're all expecting a big Russian offensive in the next couple of months. And when you hear about those older tanks being delivered in early 2024, that all sounds pretty scary. And there's a sense here that maybe Germany is still not pushing those arms manufacturers enough to really deliver faster, to ramp up production. And that it's going to be the same story every time over and over again. Ukraine asking Ukraine, losing a lot of people on the ground and then receiving equipment a bit too slow and in too small quantities.